Statistics. If you're like most people, you tend to find them either unimportant, misleading, or just plain boring. Now, while they may seem cold and devoid of any emotional understanding, these figures can be quite revealing when it comes to unsolved crimes. For example, according to the FBI's Uniform Crime Report, a little over 600,000 persons go missing in the United States each year. It further states that roughly 91% of those who go missing are found and the case is closed within the first year. Now, this may sound like an impressive record, but it still means that a little over 58,000 persons remain missing and unaccounted for each year. Since 2006, one of these buried statistics has been Melanie Metheny. For nearly 13 years now, Melanie Metheny has been listed by the Kanawha County Sheriff's Department as a missing person. She is one of the remaining 9% who tragically fall within the category of both missing and endangered. Melanie, who was 21 years old at the time, disappeared from Bell, West Virginia on July 19, 2006. As was the case years later with her cousin, Chaz Richardson, the circumstances surrounding Melanie's disappearance are both suspicious, confusing, and contentious. Over the years, phrases like drug dealers, sour relationships, and even contract killing have been whispered in connection with her disappearance. However, none of these whispers have as yet risen to a crescendo, thus leaving all concerned wondering if they are still looking at a case of a missing person or a homicide. Once again, this is a case that was not selected at random. It was produced at the specific request of Melanie Metheny's friends and family, and with the cooperation of the Kanawha County Sheriff's Department and the West Virginia State Archives.
Melanie Renee Metheny was born on June 21, 1985, to Debbie and Jimmy Metheny. Melanie grew up in the community of Bell, West Virginia, a small suburban neighborhood just east of Charleston. She was a student at Riverside High School, and by 2006 was already a mother to 3 children, a daughter, Hannah, and 2 sons, Ryan and Nathan. In July of 2006, son Ryan was living with his biological father, Michael Lilly. Hannah and Nathan were living with Melanie. About 6 months previous, Melanie had ended her relationship with Hannah and Nathan's biological father, Matt Harper, although she remained on friendly terms with both Harper and his family. Prior to her disappearance, Melanie had been attending adult education classes at the Garnet Career Center in Charleston. She planned to begin her formal college education on August the 2nd. Melanie hoped one day to become a nurse. In March of 2006, Melanie met Jarrett Davis. The two began a relationship and later moved into this apartment on Campbell's Creek Drive in Charleston. At the time of her disappearance, Melanie was staying part of the time with Davis and the other part with her 2 brothers and half-sister on Midland Avenue in Bell. Also staying with Melanie and Jarrett at Campbell's Creek was Davis's 9-year-old daughter, Harley. On July 18, 2006, Melanie's paternal grandmother, Sandra Metheny, dropped Hannah and Nathan off at Melanie's Campbell's Creek apartment just before 9 a.m. Nathan and Hannah had stayed with Sandra the previous night. Melanie met her grandmother at the door, where they spoke briefly. This was the last time that Sandra Metheny ever spoke to Melanie. The events of July 18th are shrouded in almost as much mystery as the 19th, the day Melanie actually disappeared. What we do know is that Melanie spent a great deal of time on July 18th with her half-sister Stephanie Campbell and Campbell's friend Chris Arthur. Melanie, her two children, Campbell and Arthur, may have spent part of that afternoon at a public park near the Charleston Moose Lodge. The group may have then driven to Campbell's residence, where they were later joined by Campbell's boyfriend, Justin Brown. Campbell later recalled that Melanie asked her several times to accompany her on her travels planned for the following day. The reason for this unusual request remains the subject of fierce debate. The final and most contentious activity of that day has Melanie, her children, Campbell, and Arthur being driven to Melanie's Campbell's Creek apartment, where they remained until approximately 7 or 7:30 p.m. Melanie is then reported to have driven Campbell back to her home on Midland Avenue in Bell, and Arthur to her home on Central Avenue. It should be noted here that alternate versions of the day's events have neither Arthur nor Campbell ever visiting Melanie's apartment, and has them instead driving to Arthur's residence on Central Avenue, and Melanie returning home to her Campbell's Creek apartment from there. Whatever the exact sequence of events, Melanie ended up staying the night with Jared Davis at the apartment on Campbell's Creek, along with Nathan, Hannah, and Harley Davis. Wednesday, July 19, 2006. Jared Davis reported that he last saw and spoke with Melanie when he left for work at around 7 a.m. He later recalled that Melanie made a comment about picking up her transcripts at the Garnet Career Center later that day. The events that transpired over the next 4 to 8 hours and the sequence in which they occurred may well be key in uncovering what became of Melanie. Unfortunately, the order and timing of Melanie's actions and other events during this time are also the subject of a sometimes heated debate. We will now attempt to explore, as open and fairly as possible, the two main and conflicting versions of what may have been Melanie Metheny's last hours. First, the official version as it currently stands. Authorities estimate that Melanie likely left her apartment around 7:30 a.m. When Melanie left, she would have had her children, Hannah and Nathan, as well as Jared's daughter Harley, all together in her van. The question of Melanie's first and final stops that morning is perhaps the most hotly debated of all. According to the Kanawha County Sheriff's Department, Melanie first drove a quick 5-minute trek to the home of Jared's mother and Harley's grandmother on nearby Dry Branch Road. Here, Melanie dropped off Harley Davis and conversed briefly with Jared's siblings, also telling them that she had plans to pick up her transcripts at the Garnet Career Center that day. Next, Melanie reportedly drove approximately 10 miles east along U.S. Route 60 to her hometown of Bell. Here, Melanie drove to the Country Kids Daycare Center, located at 3000 West DuPont Avenue. A receptionist at the daycare center remembers Melanie arriving just after 8 a.m. This fact is not in dispute. Melanie also made conversation with the receptionist and is reported to have stated that she would be back to pick up her children by noon, and she again reportedly made mention of obtaining her educational transcripts in Charleston. Melanie left the daycare. At approximately 9 a.m., a telephone call was made from Melanie's cell to the recommended body shop near Cedar Grove, where Melanie was planning to take her van for repairs. This fact also is not in dispute. The individual who took the call later stated that the voice on the line was Melanie Metheny. Around 9:30 a.m., Melanie's cell phone placed another call, this one to her voicemail. This final call has been confirmed by cell phone records. While presumed to have been made by Melanie, it is impossible to determine with 100% accuracy just who placed the call to the phone's mailbox. Curiously, the Kanawha County Sheriff's Department have confirmed that cell tower pings indicated that each of these last two calls were made either from extreme western Kanawha County or perhaps even eastern Putnam County, at least 25 miles away from the daycare where Melanie was last reported to have been seen. This is the official version of Melanie's activity during the morning hours on July 19th, a version which the Kanawha County Sheriff's Department has steadfastly defended. However, several of Melanie's friends and family, and her grandmother Sandra in particular, have openly questioned the number and sequence of events. Sandra Metheny, who has continued her own investigation into Melanie's disappearance since day one, recently related to MysteriousWV what she feels unfolded between 7:30 and 9:30 a.m., and cited the reasons for her own suppositions. According to the alternate timeline, Melanie still left her apartment on Campbell's Creek sometime between 7:15 and 7:30 a.m. However, rather than drive first to the Dry Branch home of Jarrett Davis's mother, she instead drove first to Bell. Here again, the precise order of events is not 100% clear. Melanie stopped first, either at the home she shared with her two brothers and half-sister, or at what was then a 7-Eleven convenience store along East DuPont Avenue. In a recorded interview, a Midland Drive neighbor who had known Melanie for years later reported that she was hailed by Melanie while standing on the steps leading up to her home. Melanie and this witness made conversation for about 2 minutes. What follows is taken from a transcript of this interview made available to MysteriousWV by Sandra Metheny.
Could you see who was in the car?
Yeah. There was children in the car.
Could you see how many children?
Well, 3 is what I saw.
Melanie is said to have next continued on to the Country Kids Daycare before finally returning to the Dry Branch Road area and dropping Harley Davis off at her grandmother's residence. According to Sandra Metheny, witnesses at both the 7-Eleven and the daycare also placed 3 children inside of Melanie's van while it was in Bell. It should be noted, however, that Harley Davis, as late as 2011, continued to maintain that she was dropped off at her grandmother's home on Dry Branch first and did not accompany Melanie to Bell. The author of this posting, taken from the webpage findmelanie.com, claims to have been Harley Davis, who would have been 15 years of age at the time. Similar postings in the same thread by an author who identifies herself as Jarrett Davis's sister echoed and expanded upon Harley's account. The timestamps on each of these posts indicate that they were made within hours of one another. Whatever the precise order of events on July 19, 2006, the calls made from Melanie's cell phone are indisputable and occurred between 9 and 9:30 a.m. Just what took place over the next 8 to 8.5 hours is unknown. By 6 p.m., Melanie had still not returned to the daycare center in Bell. At about this time, Donna Harper, Nathan and Hannah's paternal grandmother, was contacted by the daycare and advised that Melanie had never returned to pick up her son and daughter. Alarmed by this, Harper contacted Melanie's family, who knew immediately that something was not right. Melanie's father, Jimmy, and his mother, Sandra Metheny, drove to the apartment on Campbell's Creek. Jarrett Davis was home and was apprised of the situation. Sandra Metheny recalls being taken somewhat aback as it seemed to her that Jarrett appeared unconcerned by the news and declined to join in any search effort at that time. Melanie's friends and family searched everywhere they could think of, but were unable to find any trace of her. Over the next several days, the police and media were alerted and search efforts intensified. Leaflets with photos of Melanie and her van were printed up and distributed all around the Kanawha Valley. The Kanawha County Sheriff's Department took charge of the investigation.
Right now, there's no concrete leads as to where she may be. So we're kind of at odds. We're going to continue to work on it, continue to search for her until we find her. Yeah. But right now we have nothing really concrete to go on.
Pouring rain and days gone by with no new information have not dampened the resolve of Melanie Metheny's family and friends. They spent Saturday looking for the 21-year-old mother of 3.
If anybody wants to come out and help, search around Campbell's Creek.
Any particular reason why? I mean, I know she lived there, but any other reason why?
Well, we have a few ideas, but like I said, I can't really speculate on anything. We don't know anything yet.
After searching all corners of eastern Kanawha County, this group gathers, wondering where 21-year-old Melanie Metheny might be.
There's nothing else we can do.
Metheny is described as 5 feet 3 inches tall, 100 pounds, with long blonde hair.
Maybe somewhere where we could find where a vehicle's been pushed over the hill or weeds trampled down, where somewhere hide a vehicle.
4 days later, and over 3 miles away, a solid clue finally surfaced. Melanie's gold 1998 Chevrolet Venture was found parked on the street at the intersection of Wyoming Street and Buring Avenue in a somewhat sketchy section of Charleston's West End. According to law enforcement, at least one resident of the neighborhood reported that the van had been at the location where it was found since about 2 p.m. on the afternoon of July 19th, roughly 5 hours after Melanie's last confirmed sighting. Once the van was opened, authorities found several items inside, including a pair of Melanie's cameras, a contact card from a Bell police officer, a handwritten note with a St. Albans, West Virginia phone number and the words 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1500, a compact disc player, and several CDs, along with Melanie's identification papers for the West Virginia Women's and Infant Children Nutrition Program, commonly referred to simply as WIC. The child safety seats were also present. All that appeared to be missing were Melanie's purse, cell phone, debit, and WIC cards. Police dusted the van, but it appeared to have been wiped clean of fingerprints. The vehicle offered up no other clues to Melanie Metheny's whereabouts. Both the authorities, as well as Melanie's family, were at a loss.
We don't have any idea why that car or why her van was parked there. We don't know if she had relatives there. We don't know if she had friends. We just don't know. And we don't know that she is the person that parked the van there.
Melanie was last known to have been seen here at the Country Kids Daycare Center in Bell, West Virginia. Her van, a gold 1998 Chevrolet Venture, was found here at the intersection of Wyoming Street and Buring Avenue on Charleston's West End. On the day she disappeared, Melanie is alleged to have told several people that she was planning to go to the Garnet Career Center, which is located here, along Dickinson Street between the downtown area and the interstate. Authorities conducted interviews at both the Garnet Career Center and West Virginia State University, where Melanie was due to begin classes on August 2nd. No one at either location recalled having seen Melanie on July 19th. Just how and why had Melanie's van traversed the distance from Bell to Charleston's west side, a location which, by all accounts, was certainly not on her itinerary for that day? And, more importantly, where was Melanie?
There are probably more unanswered questions than there are answered.
Kanawha County Sheriff's deputies found Melanie Metheny's van parked here along Wyoming Street, but they still don't have many leads on where the missing mom might be.
As the days wore on, Melanie's family's concern turned to a deep sense of fear. Although Melanie had occasionally exhibited a certain amount of wild behavior, including occasional drinking and recreational drug use, her devotion to her 3 children was reported by nearly everyone to have been beyond reproach. Authorities, as well as Melanie's family, began to painstakingly dissect the events of July 19th, as well as the preceding days and weeks. What happened between 9:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. on July 19, 2006, which would cause a loving mother of 3 to seemingly vanish without a trace? Had Melanie been kidnapped? Could she have been assaulted or even killed? Or was it somehow possible that Melanie had, against all beliefs, chosen to leave of her own volition? These questions and the general nature of Melanie's case placed law enforcement in an all too familiar and frustrating quandary. As is sadly the case with many missing adults, authorities face the agonizing dilemma that it is technically not a crime for an adult to be a missing person. To help close this loop, Melanie's grandmother, Sandra, stepped in and proceeded with her own boots-on-the-ground investigation, an investigation which she claims has unearthed troubling evidence of foul play. Several witnesses on Charleston's West End came forward with troubling accounts. Ironically, one of these witnesses was Melanie's former boyfriend, Matthew Harper. Harper recalled that at around 4 p.m. on July 19th, he was working at the air gas facility on Oregon Street, several blocks west of the location where Melanie's van would later be found. While outside on a cigarette break, Harper observed a red Ford Explorer parked across from where he was standing. According to Harper, a Caucasian female with blonde hair was struggling to exit the vehicle but was being forcibly restrained. Even more ominous, Harper also reported that he heard the unidentified female loudly exclaim, quote, "But what about my babies?" End quote. The woman was quickly pulled back inside the vehicle. Earlier that day, other witnesses on the West End reported seeing what they described as a messed-up-looking woman being held inside of a red SUV. Although the glimpse was fleeting, another witness near the air gas facility was able to obtain a partial license plate number on the Ford Explorer. Although the sequence of the characters may be transposed, the plate may have read either 9EY735 or 7EY935. Authorities have not discounted the possibility that the unidentified female may have been Melanie Metheny. Also, around noon on July 19th, another witness, who was also an acquaintance of the Metheny family, reported that she observed Melanie's gold van with its distinctive USA license plate cross the intersection of Hunt and Beach Avenue, also on Charleston's West End, and headed in a westerly direction. A preponderance of both the official and unofficial version of the day's events appears to confirm that Melanie's van was on the west end of Charleston by the early afternoon of July 19th. Just whether or not Melanie was in or driving the van at the time cannot be confirmed.
A woman who lives near where the van was found didn't want us to show her face, but says she may have seen Metheny as recently as Sunday.
Very thin, pretty. You know, she had blondish, sandy blondish brown hair.
The woman was walking here along Delaware Avenue when she recognized a woman that fit the description of Melanie Metheny. When she went home and turned on the TV set and saw the picture and the striking resemblance, she immediately called police.
I pray that it is her, and this isn't a mistake, but I'm pretty sure it's not, and she wasn't in the best of conditions. Anybody that is missing, that is gone, that they can't find, a mother, and especially over here with the way the violence is and the drugs over here, I'd be afraid for anybody.
Despite the recovery of her vehicle and the eyewitness accounts, the investigation into Melanie's disappearance seemed to stall on Charleston's West End. Even with continuing online and local media coverage and the offering of a $5,000 reward, little in the way of new information, good or bad, would emerge until 2012. On December 8th of that year, longtime drug dealer Joey Jeffrey and an accomplice, 37-year-old Cindy Crothers, were arrested at the Knight's Inn in Kanawha City. Earlier that evening, a resident of Witcher Creek called the police when he observed Jeffrey and Crothers forcibly abduct Jeffrey's own cousin, Leanna Quinn. As part of a plea bargain struck with the Kanawha County Prosecutor's Office, Crothers agreed to testify against Jeffrey and to tell all that she knew about what transpired on December 8, 2012. Amazingly, part of the tale woven by Crothers while under oath included a verbal threat against Quinn by Jeffrey. In this threat, Jeffrey is alleged to have stated, quote, "Do you remember Melanie Metheny? I'll put you in the same hole I put her in," end quote. Jeffrey then viciously lamented that he doubted the vehicle they were in at the time had enough fuel to get to the alleged location. Crothers was later sentenced to 1 to 5 years for her role in the kidnapping. In April of 2014, Jeffrey was sentenced to a minimum of 24 years in prison. Authorities publicly stated that they would thoroughly investigate the threat alleged to have been made by Jeffrey. As of this airing, it is still not known if authorities have taken Jeffrey's threat as a credible statement or if it has been chalked up to little more than grandstanding in an effort to instill fear. Today, Melanie Metheny is still missing, and her family and friends are still searching for answers. Sadly, authorities today seem no closer to unraveling this tangled web than they were in 2006. Rumors have surfaced, theories have been put forth, and hundreds of thousands of questions have been asked, yet the end result remains the same: no Melanie. Both Melanie's family, as well as the Kanawha County Sheriff's Department, feel certain that there are individuals out there who know the truth about what happened to Melanie, but have been reluctant to come forward, most likely out of fear for their own well-being. To this day, authorities are not even able to state whether or not they have a suspect or even a person of interest in mind. While Melanie's loved ones continue to hope for the best, the candle of hope seems to grow a little dimmer with each passing day. However, one thing that has neither dimmed nor faded are the memories each of them have of Melanie, and the bits and pieces of herself which have been left behind. In March of 2006, just over 4 months before she was to vanish, Melanie penned the following paper about her life and the many things it contained. Those who knew Melanie best say that these words sum up just who she really was.
My whole life revolves around my 3 kids. My oldest boy, Ryan, is 3. He will be 4 in March. My middle boy is 2. He will be 3 in October. His name is Nathan. My last child and youngest is Hannah. She is 11 months old. She will be 1 year old in March. Ryan is in the Head Start program at Morris Enrichment Center, a church in Canal City. He goes 2 days a week, and he does great. He is so smart. He comes home and tells me about his day and all the kids in his class. I was only 16 when I had him, and I had no clue how to take care of a baby. But when I saw him for the first time, it just hit me, and after that, it all came natural. Nathan is my spoiled boy. He slept with my fiance and me until he was almost 2, so it's hard leaving him every day to go to school. He goes to daycare every day, and he normally breaks my heart every morning. He gives me this pathetic look like it's the end of the world, and as soon as he sees me start to leave, he starts screaming. It kills me every time. But when I pick him up at the end of the day, his daycare teacher always says he does great, and he sees me, grabs his coat, and doesn't look back.
Right.
Hannah is my only little girl, and she is the sweetest thing you'll ever meet. She looks like me when I was a baby. She is not shy. She'll go to anyone, and she'll smile you to death. Her daycare teachers tell me every day that she never even cried. She's just learning to walk, and it's so cute. She will walk with you holding her hand, but as soon as you let go, she will take a step, realize you're gone, and get excited, and it looks like she's trying to jump instead of walk. Being a single mom is not easy at all, but watching my kids grow up and watching them learn new things for the first time is the greatest feeling I've ever had. I would not change them for the world, and I don't know where I'd be right now if I didn't have them, but I know my life wouldn't have as much meaning.
Nearly 13 years have passed since Melanie Metheny was last seen. Today, her 3 children have grown into teenagers, and her family continues to cling to the hope that Melanie may one day return to see them transition from children into adults. Authorities feel certain that there are those out there who know what happened to Melanie, and they are urging them to put aside whatever fear may be holding them back and to come forward and tell what they know.
Melanie Metheny was last seen at approximately 8 a.m. on Wednesday, July 19, 2006. According to the Kanawha County Sheriff's Department, Melanie dropped 2 of her children off at the Country Kids Daycare Center at about this time. Alternately, Melanie may have driven from the daycare center to drop her boyfriend's daughter off at her grandmother's home on Dry Branch Road in Charleston. A call was made from Melanie's cell phone to the recommended body shop at approximately 9 a.m. and another to her voicemail at approximately 9:30 a.m. Melanie's van, a gold-colored 1998 Chevrolet Venture, was found locked and abandoned at the intersection of Wyoming Street and Buring Avenue in Charleston on Saturday, July 23rd. Residents in the area advised authorities that the van had been parked in the same location since about 2 p.m. on July 19th, the day Melanie went missing. This same vehicle may have been seen heading west at the intersection of Beach Avenue and Hunt Avenue at approximately noon on the same day. An unidentified Caucasian female was observed being held in a red SUV, possibly a Ford Explorer, by at least 2 witnesses. One of these witnesses was Melanie's estranged boyfriend, Matthew Harper, who saw the vehicle in this area at approximately 4 p.m. on July 19th. Harper also reported that the unidentified female called out, "But what about my babies?" The license of the vehicle from the Harper sighting may have had the plate number 9EY735 or 7EY935. In December 2012, well-known drug dealer Joey Jeffrey is reported to have made a verbal threat wherein he stated he would put an intended victim into the same hole he put Melanie in. This threat was alleged to have been made by Jeffrey while he was on Witcher Creek, just east of Bell, West Virginia. Further comments alleged to have been made by Jeffrey seem to indicate that Melanie, if deceased, was not buried near Witcher Hollow. At the time of her disappearance, Melanie was 21 years old and weighed approximately 100 pounds. She is 5 feet 3 inches tall and has brown eyes and strawberry blonde hair. Her ears are pierced, and she has a surgical scar on her left ankle. Today, Melanie Metheny would be 32 years old. This photograph has been computer-enhanced to show what Melanie might look like at the approximate age of 30. Authorities would be particularly interested in speaking to anyone who may have seen or heard from Melanie after 9 a.m. on Wednesday, July 19, 2006, or who may have heard Melanie talk about her plans for that day. If you have any information concerning the whereabouts of Melanie Metheny, please contact the Kanawha County Sheriff's Department at 304-357-0169.